Alrighty, for the recording, welcome back. We are Nagarjuna investigators on February 26, 2025. Let's gather our minds here as we usually do. Please bring your attention to your breath until you hear from me again. Now bring to mind that being who for you is a manifestation of ultimate love, ultimate compassion, ultimate wisdom. And see them there with you. They are gazing at you with their unconditional love for you, smiling at you with their holy great compassion. Their wisdom radiating from them. That beautiful golden glow encompassing you in its light. And then we hear them say, bring to mind someone you know who's hurting in some way. Feel how much you would like to be able to help them. Recognize how the worldly ways we try fall short. How wonderful it will be when we can also help in some deep and ultimate way, a way through which they will go on to stop their distress forever. Deep down, we know this is possible. Learning about karma and emptiness, we glimpse how it's possible. And so we grow this intention to be able to help in that deep and ultimate way. And with that intention, we turn our minds back to our precious holy being. We know that they know what we need to know, what we need to learn yet, what we need to do yet, to become one who can help this other in this deep and ultimate way. And so we ask them, please teach us that. And they are so happy that we've asked. Of course, they agree. Our gratitude arises. We want to offer them something exquisite. And so we think of the perfect world they are teaching us how to create. We imagine we can hold it in our hands. And we offer it to them, following it with our promise to practice what they teach us, using our refuge prayers to make our promise. Here is the great earth, filled with fragrant incense and covered with the blanket of flowers. The great mountain, 4 lands, wearing the jewel of the sun and the moon. In my mind, I make them the paradise of a Buddha and offer it all to you. By this deed, may every living being experience the pure world. Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kam Niryatayami. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that I do in contributing to this investigation and the rest, may we reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that I do in contributing to this investigation and the rest, may we reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that I do in sharing in this investigation and the rest, may all beings reach their total awakening for the benefit of every single other. All right, then. Joanna, you are at the top. Will you offer our opening, please?
Yeah, thank you. Here I have made a song for you on the very root of the middle way, which I call wisdom. In the language of India, this text is called Prajna Nama Mula Madhyamaka Karika. In the language of Tibet, it is known as Uma Sarwe Tsikler Shepa Sharab. In English, we call it Wisdom, a song on the root of the middle way. I bow down to Manjushri, the glorious, gentle voice, in his guise as a teenage boy.
Thank you. And Pauline, 1.1.
Dear teacher, I bow down to that highest of teachers, to the fully enlightened one who teaches us to reach that peace where our fantasies about how things exist are put to a final rest.
Janet, please, 1.2.
I bow down to the one who taught us that things happen in dependence, period. Nothing ends, nothing begins, nothing stops, but nothing ever lasts forever. Nothing comes, nothing goes. No two things are different, nor are any two the same.
LC 1.3.
Thank you, Lama. Nothing grows from itself. Nothing grows from something else. So nothing grows from both, and nothing grows without a cause. There is nothing at all that grows at all.
Not at all, at all. Right. So what does chapter 1 address? Cause and effect relationships that we believe are our world, make up our world. And so he reviews all the different cause of and effect relationships we believe in and points out that there aren't any other cause effect relationships than those. And then he sets out to show us that, my goodness, those cause effect relationships we hold to, they have no natures. And what is our mistaken mind here when he says they have no natures? We hear it, they don't exist, they don't happen. And it's like, what? And we disagree. Of course, everything needs a cause. We do affect change because, look, Nagarjuna, I get out of bed in the morning. I go to the kitchen, I make tea. Right? There are causes, there are results that it cannot be true what you just said. Even though the logic in chapter 1, we followed it. Yeah, okay, yeah, okay, yeah, okay. And then the conclusion, nah. So what was chapter 2?
Going?
Yeah, going and coming, going, go or gone. Because we said, wait, I do things and make things change. And he doesn't address that directly. He goes deeper. In order to do something to affect change, we have to go, right? We have to go from where we are to something else. And so we're thinking literally we have to go. And he goes, okay, that's good enough. Let's investigate the goer going, which seems like such a useless thing to investigate. But when we did, it was like, wow. It is true. I can't actually find the moment it's happening, but it does happen. Something else is going on here. So by the end of chapter 2, the goer, the going, the gone, none of it has any nature. Right? We know he means nothing in it from it. And so we can experience it in the way that we do because our seeds are ripening for us to experience it in the way that we do. And so we do, and it's real when we do. But none of it happens in the way that we think, right? We're adding our knowing the punchline. He just says, all that going, go or gone, none of it has any nature. Come on, what's the matter? Archie Kachik says, yeah, bud. Well, if there's no goer, what's going on? Right? When I see, hear, smell, taste, touch, our Kachik must go, come on, I have these sense powers. I do so see myself going somewhere. And he investigates this thing we call seeing. To come to the conclusion that seeing, hearing, smelling can't have any natures. Well, if they have no nature, they can't exist, they can't happen, says our ignorant mind. But they do happen. And so our Kachik, not remembering exactly how we get to the powers from chapter 3 to chapter 4. Yes, Janet.
I think it's been said over and over again, but I'm experiencing that you can read all this stuff, but you can never teach it and really never understand it unless you have some experiences and practice it. Otherwise, people are just telling you shit, and then it's like, okay. But if you have your own experiences, then you don't have to. I'm thinking about someone I love, like my Ne Lama, who's telling me shit. He told me that it's going to be really hard, like dealing with people that aren't studying emptiness, not only because they're not ready for it, but I'm not ready for it. And so how do you have a supportive environment, really? I mean, in this class, I have a supportive environment. I'll tell you, it's not out there anywhere else. If I make a statement, and I end it with, I see it in emptiness, people think I'm telling them things don't exist, and that's not really what I mean. And then it's too much explaining. And then I realize I should just not tell them anything. I should be a bump on the log. And then I wonder if I should just not spend time with these people anymore. I don't know what to do. And my Ne Lama doesn't spend time with anyone. He likes people. He likes ladies, actually, but he has a really solitary life. And he says, well, I just try not to get in trouble. And I try to, like, if there's ignorant people, I try not to just engage too deeply. And I'm one of those ignorant people, but he's engaged with me.
You're special.
He told me if there's any teachings on emptiness, I should just go to them. Don't worry about like any of the Tantra or Vajrayana. He said that the teachings on emptiness for me are the important thing. And so I've been following his instructions, and I haven't found too many of them, honestly. So I know it's in all the teachings. I know it's in Shantideva. I know. And I know that in order to do Vajrayana, they want you to practice emptiness. But I feel like, I need to have my own experiences, and I need to like, you'd be paying attention a little bit more. Otherwise, I I might mistakenly tell someone, the alchemy people that believe in the divine and God, that I see God with emptiness, and then they're like, oh, you're so wrong, you're so wrong, God is everything. I'm just like, that's not what I meant.
Right. I'm seeing more and more the validity of the instruction that you don't teach until someone has asked. That you show by example, but you don't actually teach until the request has been made, because our own minds don't see the other open to hearing in a new way, in a higher way, right? Which means our own mind is doing the same thing. Of course, somebody tells us something new that we haven't asked for. We're not open enough to really hear to bubble up new seeds. There's no such thing as a new seed. To bubble up a different seed than what our previous belief system held. So you're right. I mean, everything you see is right. It's a stage we go through. where it's like the teachings themselves say, teach this to everybody. And then we try, and it's like, we get this from the everybody our heart wants to teach. And then my reaction too is just to, all right, I'll withdraw into my room and I'll just do it all in my imagination. And then we end up feeling isolated and alone and can't really tell whether we're making progress, because the way we recognize we're progressing in our worldview is being out amongst the others that push our buttons and make us struggle, and help us look to see if my actions are consistent with my intellect, right? Have my understanding sunk down into my heart to guide my behavior. And so we do need to be out amongst others enough to see how our growing understanding is guiding our reactions towards others. But I agree that it's not effective to even drop the little hints that there's something else going on when we're with a group that has their own belief system and they're happy with their belief system. And then what do we do? How do we interact?
And then my Ney Lama is pretty good with, at least better than me. I'm not that good with the ACI material and the readings, but he's better. And he says that if there was a discussion about the absolute existence of the divine and God, he would obliterate that person. And I'm like, dude, I don't want to do that either. I'm not here to hurt somebody and make them feel like that everything they've studied, the Abhidharma they've studied for 20 years in Geshe Michael's case has a different viewpoint. I'm just trying to study for myself right now. This is like really too much.
Right. But if we don't try, right, with scripture to see how our understanding is growing, it's not gonna like just come down in a lightning bolt, the wisdom. So yeah, that we can't get it through the words, but we can't get it without the words, without trying the words on first sight. So
took a divine feminine class with the alchemist people, and I realized that the wisdom part of it is the divine feminine in our work.
yes.
But because they're on this, everything's coming from the divine, I can't even really go there with them. But I figure it's really not a big deal because they'll get there, because the tantric daikini's in their energies. They just don't understand it. I figure they'll get there anyway. And in the meantime, I've got to look for experiences and I've got to be nicer to them. But maybe I just don't need to spend so much time with them because it's just too hard.
Right. There you go.
Work situation. I don't get paid for it. It's not a work situation, but it's been very, very difficult because their belief systems and our language is so weak. And then it comes across like I'm cutting them down, but I'm not trying to cut them down. Like I think I'm smarter than them, or I don't want to receive their help. And it's just, health thing is just a mess for me right now.
Oh, hang in there. Elsie, you had your hand up before.
Yeah, I mean, I understand how Janet feels, because sometimes when because I have a few friends who had been studying DCI with Geshe Michael, and then they went on to, I mean, they have been attending other Buddhist religious classes, and then they turn around and tell me and ask me, and they say, aren't we not supposed to publicize the good seeds we have planted? And here GMR is telling you to coffee meditate, to rejoice, tell people about it. They say, won't that negate the good seeds? So I've been trying to tell them that it is actually not publicizing it when we share what we have done. partly is for them to be able to feel happy for us, and for us also is also to feel to increase, I would say, our level of happiness as well. So the seed, I find that the seed that we plant when we are very, very happy and very, very satisfied with it, it's a much better seed. And we would tend to want to replicate more. You know, so I was just explaining to them. They say, no, this Lama was telling me, no, plant the seed and don't let anybody else knows about it. You are supposed to know about it, and only you. So I'm stumped. I I I really do not know whether I should how should I guide them as to, you know, to press on and say, no, you should do it this way, you know. So I just say, I remember GMR said that if you want to experience the benefits of the seeds you've planted in this lifetime, you need to do coffee meditation. You need to rejoice on it, you know, and you need the feeling to be very intense. Then you will see it ripening in this lifetime. But if you want to plant a seed and then wait for maybe the next lifetime or 2 lifetimes after that, then it's okay. So I don't know whether they are thinking I'm sarcastic about their belief or what.
Yeah. But you know, there's a difference in coffee meditation that we do for ourselves and rejoicing practice that we share with others. So,
Yes.
you know, coffee meditation is meant to be our own rejoicing in the goodness we've done, we've seen others do, etc. Our own personal practice, helping our own seeds grow. And then when we're with a group of people that understand about seeds well, then when we gather to do rejoicing practice together, we have this higher level of understanding of what we're all trying to do when we do share, I did this, I did that. If we're doing that in a group of people that don't have the same understanding, that the ordinary human reaction to someone pointing out the goodness they've done is to get jealous or think they're being, you know, arrogant. So it's true. What the other Lama says is keep your good seeds to yourself, in which case the rejoicing practice that Geshe Michael would be pointing out to do in a group of not like-minded people would be to point out the goodness that you see others doing to the ones that you're talking to, and save your own personal good deeds sharing with your own group or with your own mind, which is probably more important even. Do you see? So there's this skillful means. It's not a one or the other, either or. It's the circumstance according to who you're with.
I see. Okay. Now I know how to explain to her.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lama.
Good. And then someone else had their hand up too. I forget who. Hello, Roxana.
Hi, good morning. I just wanted to share that in one of the daily practices in the platform of ACI, in the 4 powers, Geshe addresses the different worldviews, the Tawa, and he does it in a very beautiful way. When he goes, well, most Christians believe that the female, the woman, this guy was just standing there and he just pulls his hand and he goes into his rib and from his rib, he makes the woman. And he goes, well, that's not what happened. He addresses it in a very skillful way. So the many different towers that we have, there's so many different system beliefs that we have that they do not make any sense at all when you're growing up and you start asking questions. So maybe Janet can read it so she can have a more clear idea of the different beliefs that we are around, that there are different cultures. And then he addresses and he goes, well, what if the Tibetans would say if a monkey and a gazelle got together, and that's from where it was made. So that doesn't fit either. So maybe it's interesting to read it and to have a more clear idea of what the topic.
What I experience is when I read with us together, the Mula Maria Makakarika, it doesn't work on my own, but when I read it together, it does address this because he's actually trying to debate the other schools. And it's what Lama Sarani said, you debate them with what they already understand. If they know they're doing good deeds, you can tell them what they're doing. If they already analyze something a certain way, you can go back to how they're analyzing it. But you know, part of our struggle is we're not totally familiar with these Indian schools that he's debating, but he is going against the Indian schools and how they look at the world, that the world has a creator spirit and the creator spirit created everything, and he's debating that. And maybe that's why I'm seeing this with the alchemy people, because I'm reading this text and it's gonna
right. Right. Yeah, you know,
What text? Just out of curiosity, what text are you reading?
the one we're here
And-
studying, the Mula Maria Makakarika wisdom, this Nagarjuna text.
Yes. Oh, you're reading this text with them?
No, but when I read it, I feel like some of the stuff that Nagarjuna is experiencing is
Okay.
starting to experience, but I'm not really handling it the way he did. And that's what Lama Sarani was pointing out. You have to communicate with them with what they understand,
Right.
and not coming from your side trying to teach something they don't understand, unless they ask you to teach something they don't understand, and that's different.
Right. Right. And you know, the different levels of emptiness and dependent origination, those six flavors. When we're learning them, we learn them as here's a group of people that believe this way and this way and this way. But as we understand them better and are exploring them, what I've come to recognize is that no, those different levels of meaning of dependent origination and emptiness actually show up in my own, I don't want to say belief system in the sense of something I believe and hold on to no matter what, but in my reaction to something, in my blaming something for something, you know, in my thought of where something came from, I can recognize being at level 1, being at level 2, being at level 3. And then it's like, oh my gosh, I see why they teach it as if they're schools, so that we can learn to recognize it, so that we can recognize it in ourselves. And then Nagarjuna, the beauty of Nagarjuna is he gives us these couple of different tools to be able to check, to see if what we're blaming for whatever's just happened can really be the source of our complaint. And he gives us all these different ways of becoming more aware that we're blaming something for something. And he doesn't just do it by picking out the outer events or people or things that we blame. he goes deeper into how we experience those things, like how we physically experience them, how we emotionally experience them. And then he gives us a method for checking them. And it seems like his main methods for checking is, are they happening sequentially or simultaneously, or do they ever touch? Like those are the two arguments that I see him using back and forth. I think there are others. I just don't have it in my head, the more subtle arguments. But it's like this text seems to be showing us that there are just 2 or 3 basic arguments that if we can understand how to apply them well, we can apply them at any level of our finding our own misunderstanding, to apply it to that misunderstanding to correct ourselves. And then, as Janet says, until we have our own experience of doing that, there isn't much we can say to somebody else who hasn't asked for help. There's not much we can say that will, awaken them to this kind of explanation, because it's too different. It's taken us all a long time to get comfortable with it.
Well, there are lots
Yes,
of
Janet.
there are lots of academics that interpret this book and write about it. But
Mhm.
I think one of the differences I see are the people that practice and don't practice. So the really academic people, that second chapter, going and coming, and then, he turned it to movement. But then someone that practiced said, already gone is slang for somebody who's already reached it. And when they're a baby, they are already gone. And then when they're not, they're baby prince. And then when they're Buddha, they're, but is there a difference from the baby Buddha and then the person who becomes a Buddha? So he has that kind of conversation where somebody who's translating it, going and coming, he says it's movement, So
Yeah.
there is a difference for someone that practices completely different. It's very interesting.
Right. And like that opens that whole idea about when we're relying on translations, we're relying on the level of wisdom of the translator, aren't we? And it's like, oh my gosh, I feel so stuck, right? Because anyway, yes, all good points. So what do we do with it as we're going through this text for the umpteenth time, right? Trying to get glimpses that will help us in our personal practice. Because Janet's right, we just don't want to be smarter about Nagarjuna. We would like to be able to reach the conclusions he's pointing out and get some deep enough aha from them that when we are out at the grocery store or dealing with these, ripening results, people that don't seem interested, how do we interact with them from love, compassion, and wisdom? I mean, that's our hope, that what we study here will help us be more loving, compassionate, wise people. Yeah.
Well, I know one thing for me is just say less. I tend to talk a lot. So I could just say less and then maybe look for those experiences and just privately file them away when I see those experiences. And then I can, like the 4 powers that Roxana was talking about, to cross-reference with this, it seems like good to cross-reference, to review and cross-reference, and then look for real life experiences for
Right.
just for clarity's sake, my own clarity's sake.
Right.
And I don't need to share that with other people unless they ask me.
Right. Right. Nice. Yes, Luisa.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
So I had an experience 1 week or 2 weeks ago, like I work with very intelligent people like PhDs and scientists, right? And then we had some dinner, and I don't remember why we started to talk about these kind of topics. And it turned out very ugly for me, I have to say, because I tried to explain through the pen, but then they started to come with these kind of scientific explanations that I am not so, how to say, I don't master those. And then I kind of struggled. And then they say also, then I try with the, because we were eating, then I try, okay, would you think that the pleasure is coming from this dessert or whatsoever? And we believe that this is the source. And they started, no, you don't know how taste is generated. And then they start to explain me how the things in the mouth work. And so I just kind of, I was stuck. And then after that, I have to say I was crying. I mean, not there, but after, because I'm like, I have been studying this for like 15 years and still I am not able to explain the pen. And then somehow, yeah, it turned into a very depressive experience. And at the end, I think they are kind of like, wow, what kind of manager do we have with these crazy ideas? Because they were my team members. So yeah, so it was not so pleasant. I don't know. At the end, yeah, I know it's my seats, but it somehow these kind of experiences makes you paddle back and
Right.
avoid in the future. Like I prefer now to what Janet was mentioning before. I don't feel any support group outside, so I
Yeah.
just kind of swallow things alone. But this is also very painful because
Yeah.
you feel you cannot talk about this to anybody, and then you are alone just suffering, and you are not able to complain because it's your own fault. So it becomes also a bit overwhelming, at least for me.
Yeah, understand. I applaud you for even trying to explain the pen thing to a bunch of scientists. I would not have been that brave. I feel you. I really do.
I mean, as I do the Vajrasattva purification, and at the end they say, think of something you could have done differently. I'm like, okay, I could have said nothing at all, and I could have said, maybe you're right. I could have said that too.
Right.
But there's different ways of handling it, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, like when we have a conviction, we want everybody to have that conviction because that conviction helps us. And then we assume that that conviction's going to help everybody in the same way. But then we're thinking self-existently about our conviction, aren't we? And then it's like, it's so obvious to us that this is a conviction that can work to help people be happy, but not if, right? Not if, I can't even finish the sentence. There's nothing in this seed system. It's not in it from it that makes it so effective. It's our goodness that makes it be the conviction that will work for us, to help us bring about a world of happy people who believe it too. But we can't make people believe it. We can't really even logic them into believing it. We can only logic ourselves, right, into studying it. But, you know, we make this big case for faith born of logic. But technically, even with logic, we can still logically go yes and reject. Right? And so will others do the same. You know, again, Bodhisattva level is show by example. Show by example, show by example, show by example. And then when somebody wants to know, what are you doing? How are you doing it? Well, let me explain. Yeah. But to try to change somebody's mind who isn't interested in being changed, how does that go across when they're doing it to us? No, thank you. Even if it makes such perfect sense, no, thank you. Right. And it's like, that's what Luisa is coming up against. She has a conviction and she wants to see it in other people. And there's smart people. You would think those smart people would go, oh my gosh, look at that. Everything I've ever believed is wrong. And like, who's going to do that if they aren't already questioning their own belief system? You know, if they're questioning, I have a suggestion. Maybe it's like this. You know, maybe that'll help. But if they're not questioning their own system, who are we to impose a new idea? No. Yes, Joanna.
So those last 2 years while we are studying Nagarjuna, it took me really, really almost all those 2 years to reverse my thinking into the way that only reading these verses regularly helps me to remind myself in daily situations. It's not the way that I think. So really trying to pierce through this deception. And what if it's not the way that I think? If it's not the way that I think? So really to question myself, am I understanding correct? And recently, I'm always thinking when I have those challenging interactions with other people, I try to, or at least my mind goes to, it's not the way that I think about them. It's not how they are. It's how I am. So I see them not as they are. I see them how I am, and it makes me think about what's, in this interaction, what is the trigger and what is the challenge that I have to overcome myself. So if it's not the way that I think that it's in them, it must be something within me, and they are just my mirror, because they appear every time differently. My husband, for example, my teenage son, every day different. So it must be different than I think, and this really helps me to argue with myself and to try to think every day a little bit about what would be the real thing, like for me in my worldview, and to try to change something in my own behavior, which is really hard, but it keeps me from those discussions. So I used to discuss also and argue a lot, and I always lost. But Nagarjuna is always, well, at least the feeling that Luisa is describing, I had the same. But with Nagarjuna, like when did it start, and does it always work? And I mean, yeah, you can explain those chemical reactions, and my mouth is always the same, and I can eat the hot chocolate or whatever. I can eat it today, and tomorrow it's the same manufacturer, it's the same ingredients, it's my same mouth, it's my same taste system, but it's just not giving me the pleasure. So,
Right.
and
Right.
it took me really long time until, at least for myself, it's in my head now, the discussion. It's not in the out world. It's just I listen to them and try to be open to meet more people who are open to what I say. So
Yeah.
really tough, I have to say, because yeah, I also was a really kind of no better person, especially at home. And but it helps me, at least personally,
Yeah.
a lot with the Nagarjuna.
You know, so this root text wisdom, you know, at least as far as we've gotten, he's not bringing up compassion. He's not bringing up love. Is it not? Is it not in here?
Well, technically, it is in here with the chapter on artificial and genuine. You know, you have compassion and then you have wisdom, but you wouldn't have compassion without wisdom, because you
Yeah.
wouldn't have the fake leather without the real leather, or in the case of Geshe Michael, the real milk without the fake milk. So
Yeah.
they go together. However we try to finagle it, you can't feel better about yourself because of ultimate, because the relative bodhicitta is what makes the ultimate ultimate. So the compassion and love is in some
Right.
ways a segment of that relative bodhicitta, that you have compassion for someone, you give material things out of love, like chocolates and oranges. And then you also can look at your contributing to your regret with wisdom. If you want to go there.
Yeah. But
I
so
think he's
it's like,
really, oh, sorry.
I want to reach total enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. In order to plant my seeds for wisdom, I need to share wisdom with other people. And I just heard myself say, don't bother, because they don't want to know your wisdom. You know, just show it off by example until they ask. But wait, my very pledge is to help people be happy, ultimately happy. And there's nothing I can do in my worldly way of helping people be happy that doesn't contribute to their suffering. So I'm back to Janet's conclusion, is just hole up in my bedroom, right? Study, practice, study, practice, study, practice. Because out in my outer world, all I'm doing is contributing to people's suffering in my very effort to stop suffering. Like, how is it working?
My mind goes to by being the example of doing things differently and having a different behavior in the situations, by showing compassion and love and giving the other the benefit and whatever is the situation. I think this is the way we can show our compassion and love.
Yeah.
And and I think he's really compassionate with us, with all our kachiks and kachikas, because he's just struggling with us for 27 chapters. So he would
I
have given
know.
up on us latest on chapter 2. So he really loves us to struggle so long.
Good point. Yes, Roxana.
Thank you. I'm enjoying a lot our discussion. I'm just thinking about teach by example and being married with Mario, who's a PhD and a scientist, and being so focused on one thing and being raised a really strong Catholic. And in his family, we have nuns and we have bishops and we have priests and so many other religions, personalities. And even us as a couple, being in church and ahead of the committee and building a church and starting it another, it has made a big shift in our lives, me becoming a Buddhist. So I think with a lot of positive psychology, I handle myself towards him. For example, with my doings, the way I am, I think it has set up an example for him. And although he doesn't says, hey, I do believe in your stuff, he does plant seeds. He knows about seeds. If he's, for example, he was hurting, he's still hurting because of the swing that he does. He's have this ache, a terrible ache. So there's a lady that came, he massaged him, and she suggested some things that he should be drinking, and they're pretty expensive. And he goes, here's the money, go buy them for me and buy some more for my brother. So he knows he's planting the seeds.
Nice.
And also, when the time is right, not when I think I should tell him, I wait. I know when to wait so I can express my ideas and do it in a very positive way. Like, Mario, you have so many wonderful health seeds. You planted all of your lives. Just remember all the time that you have taken care of us when the girls were small, and all the time that you're so cautious with our medication and the timing and giving it to us. So I think that there's a time also in how to say things
Right.
to make the shift in the person's mind, but very, very swiftly, very, very subtle. So they
Right.
do not feel that we are attacking their belief systems because it's
Right.
been there for so many decades or
Yeah.
ingrained.
Yeah. You know, I love hearing His Holiness say, you know, your Buddhist study and practice will make you a better Christian, right? A better whatever you are, right? A better pagan, right? And like I personally make the distinction between being a Buddhist with a capital B and being a Buddhist with not a capital B, right? A small b, meaning a certain amount of understanding about the we reap what we sow idea, you know, which is, I think, consistent through all belief systems is some level of belief in we reap what we sow. And, you know, that's all we would need to point out if we're wanting to, you know, drop a little bombshell somewhere along the way of, yeah, you know, we do reap what we sow. And then if they like, what do you mean by that? You can start a conversation. But otherwise, you know, that sometimes is all we need to say. You know, skillful. Yeah. Yes, Joanna.
I also like that they usually say that so who are you, where are you coming from, kind of thing, and then just saying human, planet Earth.
Right.
And I think there is a really big, for me personally, a really big push into this liberation, that we are also questioning the emptiness or our ability to discriminate, that it's also empty, and just helping whoever there is suffering being, doesn't even need to be only human, can also be animal and anything else. So really to try to overcome this distinction between, you know, you're Buddhist or Catholic or whatever, and then just go there human. So
Human, right.
I'm out there to help others.
Right.
And
Bringing some
it's tough, but it's really liberating, I think.
Yeah. 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 Nagarjuna is happy with us, I think. Do you need a break or shall we go on?
I do need a break, dear Lama.
Okay.
I need to
Alrighty,
go get some tea.
Now's the time. I'm pausing. All right. So we're trying to get back to chapter 7. Shall we just go there or shall we go step by step? All right. There's no such thing as causes and effects. What? Of course there is. Nothing happens without a cause.
It's not the cause you're thinking. That's the stock answer.
Right. Right. Everything has to have a cause because I cause things to happen. Oh, let's check to see if you go do that, actually. You can't ever get there to do what you think you're doing, says Nagarjuna. So, no, you don't. You don't cause anything to happen. Not in the way we think, right? The me going, gone, having come back has no nature of going, gone, come back. Yes, I do because I interact with things. Or let's see if when you see things, you are actually seeing things the way you think you're seeing things. You know, okay, I see that it can't really happen in the way that I think, or this would be the ramification and that doesn't happen. But, yeah, but an analysis of the powers, the sense powers, right? But I do so experience myself with the physical body, right? What are the rest of the powers? An investigation of the parts to a person, which would technically be the heaps, wouldn't it? And then we say, he says, you're those heaps, they have no natures. I am so a being with heaps. Because my heap of form is made up of elements because Buddha said so. And so he does chapter 5, the chapter investigating the elements, but the element he investigates is space, like the hardest one. But the one that's closest to, no, that's wrongly stated. The one that plants seeds for us to understand things called absences, existing things that are absences better. So he's very skillfully having us investigate the element space so that when we get around to investigating emptiness, which also has no nature of its own, we'll better be able to hold to the presence of an absence anyway. I thought that it was very skillful for him to do that. So chapter 5 was establishing the existence of things by way of our elements establishing our heap of form. And then, right, his conclusion, those of lesser intellect cannot see the peace of putting to rest what they think they see. They hold the view that things can only exist and that they can never exist, right? The two cliffs. Things do so exist the way I experience them because I experience them. Technically, that's not a valid logical statement, but we use it. And if you're telling me things don't exist in that way, then what you must be saying is that they don't exist at all. That doesn't seem like a valid statement either. But as I become more and more aware of my reactions to things, it's like I see that my mind does flop off that cliff of it's not there at all. If it's not there the way I'm experiencing it, it's not there at all. And then it pops right back up with, no, it's there, unique to me, right? Those are the words that help me, is to say unique to me. And then all of a sudden, the whole situation is like present, happening, everybody involved. It's unique to me, it's unique to them. And it's like, suddenly things are more available to be different than they were before, when it was unique to it, right? Unique to the jerk who's saying something stupid. So to catch ourselves flopping from one extreme to the next is really helpful, actually, because without recognizing the two extremes, there is no middle way. We can't really hear about the middle way and then go, okay, I'm going to walk the middle way, without really recognizing when we're not there. There is no middle way without the two extremes. Like technically, once we're a wisdom being, there's no middle way, right? Because there's just all. So our Kachik. Here's the elements. I'm sorry, we did it. I thought, no. Number 5 was the elements. We just did the elements. The elements that make up form is what we are trying to cling to. There is so the heaps. And then chapter 6 was the desire and the one who desires. So, you know, I do so have my 5 heaps because, right, I have desire. Then the way I desire something is through my personal experience of something as pleasurable. Like if I didn't have a body, how could I experience something as pleasurable or not pleasurable? There has to be a me that has a body that experiences things. So me with desire proves that what you're saying, Arya Nagarjuna, about my heap of form having no nature at all can't be true. I do so have a heap. I want things. I experience things. Probably what we said, I experience things. And then he goes, okay, let's look at that. And let's look at the experience, like the underlying experience that drives everything, which is desire. Desire means I want that, but desire is also, I want to avoid this. It's still desire. So really, ignorant liking and ignorant disliking is still, all of it is a form of ignorant desire. Right? The desire to avoid discomfort. So we looked at the thing that's being desired, the desiring, and the one who is desiring, I think in chapter 6, to see what comes first. The desire, the desired, or the thing that triggers it. And it's like we went round and round to find which one comes first, because if they are existing things that happen sequentially, which is what we're saying they do, then there has to be this one and then that one and then that one. And if we can prove to ourselves that you can't ever experience it that way, Nagarjuna would say, then something else must be going on. Then the nature that we hold them to have can't be in them, coming from them. Right? They have no nature, is what he says. Right? And my mind goes, no nature at all, then they're not real. It's all a fantasy, right? And it doesn't really matter. And I know that's not right. He's saying what's not real is the way we are believing they're happening. The pleasure that I taste from the triple berry pie is coming from the triple berry pie. And it's like, it has to, because otherwise I'd taste lima beans sometimes when I eat triple berry pie. Anyway, we managed to get through chapter 6, coming to the conclusion that the me with desire for a thing happens, but not from the thing, and not even actually from the current me having the desire. But it's not that it's not happening at all. Just as with desire, there are no other things which can exist as together or not together. The investigation of desire and the one who feels it. And then we said, yeah, but But still, there is a difference between triple berry pie and lima beans. And he goes, okay, let's check and see how that's determined. Right? Who determines the difference between triple berry pie and lima beans? It's called defining characteristics. What are the defining characteristics that make lima beans and triple berry pie in the thing? Right? Not the words definition, but how defining means to be able to pick it out of a crowd. So here's all the sensory input, and then there's lima beans, there's a tree, there's samadhi, there's, right? What makes that happen? We're saying, ignorance is saying, there's something in the lima beans that declares themselves as lima beans versus all the rest of the stuff that's there. Right? And so our growing wisdom says, yeah, that's how I experience things. But I know intellectually that if that were true, everybody who's experiencing those same sensory inputs would be forced to see lima beans there and samadhi over there. And I know intellectually that that's not true because not everybody knows lima beans. Right? You could look at the information and see pale green oval and not know what they are. You could look at this guy and not know samadhi, right? That's really clear. And just to recognize that, if we thought about the ramifications of it, would be, oh, so for that information to be lima beans, I have to be bringing something to the party. And that's where we start through the 6 flavors of emptiness, dependent origination. How much of it am I bringing to the party? Yeah, all of it, says Nagarjuna. Part of it, says lower middle way. Mind only. Actually, your seeds and it are bringing it together for it to be it for you. Lower than that is, no, it's in it, but it's changing. Yeah, so your relationship with it can be different, right? So back to chapter 7, he's saying, let's look to see how is it that something gets established with its identity. And it has to happen at some point, doesn't it? And then the thing that gets defined stays as the thing defined for a while. And then the thing stops getting defined in the way it's being defined. And we call that ending. So he has us look at starting, stopping, staying to address our reaction to chapter 6 when we heard there's no desirer, or desired thing. There's no desiring, desirer, desired thing. We say, yes, there is. And he goes, well, let's see when they happen, right? If they exist in the way that you think, we should be able to find the moment they start, the moment they stay, and the moment they end, right? Makes sense, doesn't it? So we were investigating starting, stopping and staying. And we had gotten to verse 13. Shall we just go to verse 13 or you want to start through chapter 7 again? We'll do this loop. We'll never get past chapter 7. Maybe that's good. There's no starting, stopping, staying. We're stuck in Groundhog Day. Groundhog Day of Arya Nagarjuna. We could start a YouTube series.
I honestly find it very interesting when we kind of stop and we comment. I think it's very helpful, at least for me. I do get to internalize more the teachings and to understand Janet's and Joanna's and Luisa's and everyone's point of view and trust and try to cross-reference with me. So I really don't mind if we just go take it slow and then just build from there to until we get to chapter 13. That's my opinion.
Back to 15. All right, so rather than doing a review, we're starting again. We're going in again.
Yes, Yolama, because me, it's like starting over
Yeah.
and building again from there. Because if I were to explain chapter by chapter on my own, I don't think if I could. So it's very helpful.
All right, then.
But I don't know what the ladies have to say. So
Right. Anybody else have a strong opinion? We want to go to 7:13 or shall we start over? All right. May I do it this way? Let me read the verse, you listen. All right. And then you can, if you get like an aha or a reaction, speak up. Otherwise, I'll go to the next one. How's that? And let's just see how that works. So put your mind in just having heard Nagarjuna point out that the me having desire has no nature of having desire when I have desire. Like that's technically what he said. And our mind goes, what? Suppose that the starting were a produced thing. Then it must be then that this as well possesses the three characteristics. The starting of my desire. And suppose the starting was never produced. How then could it be a defining characteristic? It could never be. It's not that the three of starting and so forth, starting, staying, stopping, can individually act as defining characteristics for produced things. And how could it be correct to say that these convened in a single one at a single time? So for something to be produced, it means the thing wasn't, and then it became, and then as a produced thing, it does something, and then it finishes doing what it was produced to do. Would we agree with that?
but here, for example, take for instance our A consciousness, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if we think of the seventh and the eighth consciousness, And those are the ones who are running the show for us.
Mhm.
Okay. And if I think of the three spheres immediately, because for something to be stored in the eighth consciousness, and when it ripens, then immediately the seventh consciousness acts over it. My ego, I like it, I don't like it. I mean, I start identifying something in that seed that it ripened, and I'm ripening it again. Does it apply here with the starting, the beginning? I mean, I'm planting it over and over again. So that's a produced thing, right?
Right. Right. So there will be another chapter about karma. And that's when he's addressing the question you're asking. Like, is it true also starting, staying, stopping about the seed that ripens into the result that then ends? And of course, the answer is going to be yes. Those seeds ripening into results also have no nature of their own. And it's like, it's really slippery to go there because we want our explanation of, oh, everything comes from seeds to be this thing that has its own nature, and it can't, because if it did, it wouldn't work. So our explanation of how we experience things is, oh, that's seeds results ripening from seeds I planted by behavior. But all of that also is projections happening. It is also the seeds ripe, right? It's like words fail when we get to that level. But if we're thinking self-existently about the seed system, we are misunderstanding the seed system, and we'll be blocked in our ability to understand emptiness accurately enough to even have a subtle conceptual experience of emptiness in our meditation that would be helpful enough to get us to the actual.
How would it be thinking of it in a self-existent way? I mean, are you addressing it like, oh, I'm not responsible of my past actions?
No,
Or
no.
how are you addressing it?
No, by the very words of saying, I have an eighth consciousness where my seeds stay and then ripen, is implying by the very words that they are things that are there.
Okay.
Yeah. And we have to, in order to explain it, in order to use it, we
Right.
need to do words. We have to explain it that way. And wisdom would be saying, and this whole explanation is projected results, shape-shifting ripples on the mind, right? That we're working with in Mahamudra.
Right.
Yeah.
But I would have to, in order for me to get my point, it's like I would have to not even say the words, just like experience it, right? And then just telecommunicate it with you so you could understand.
Right. And this chapter is helping us, right, learn the tools to be able to go, oh, I'm experiencing a changing thing as coming into being, staying, and then passing away. And when we recognize that's how we're experiencing things, then we can recognize that we also have I call it the blame factor. I'm blaming it and the thing that caused it for the starting, the staying, and the stopping. And this chapter is going to point out that each one of those parts of the produced thing, starting, staying, and stopping, must itself have a cause that we think it's one cause, but that cause can't be it. It has to be some other cause. And the conclusion always that we understand, because we know the punchline, is the cause is as results of past imprints made by behavior. Yeah. And then later on, he's gonna, I think, also look at that, and to make sure that we're understanding what we mean by that accurately. So chapter 7 is about produced things, functioning things, things happening. So we've gone from no desire or desiring to, wait a minute, Nagarjuna, things happen. I do so enjoy berry pie. And he goes, well, let's check out. That's a produced thing. Produced things start, stay, and stop. That's what defines produced thing as a produced thing. They start, they stay, and they stop. So let's check that out. Okay, so go back in. Be the feel the resistance. The play the part. Don't believe it, but play the part of absolutely being convinced that when something's right, a produced thing, find a produced thing that you like. It had to have had a start. If it's still there, it's staying. And understand that it's going to end someday, because something's going to happen to it, right? So if it doesn't have those 3 characteristics, then it can't be a produced thing. If it's a produced thing, then it has these 3 characteristics. And then how could it be correct to say that these 3 characteristics are there all at the same time? Or how could it be correct to say they happen one by one? So my produced thing, the triple berry pie, it's there already. So it's starting had to have happened. And it's still there, and still there, and still there. So it's staying is happening. And its ending hasn't happened yet. So we would say, right now it's staying. It has its defining characteristic of staying. But the staying itself is a result of something, right? Like, are we thinking that the triple berry pie had its cause, the baker who baked it, you know, whatever, and that cause is over and done with? Because if its cause is over and done with, how can the berry pie still be there? Doesn't it still have to have the cause for it to be there? Is it a different cause for it to stay than for it to start? In which case, when did that cause start? When did it finish starting and start staying? Do you see where he's going to go? Our own mind can go there first and then see how he addresses it to see how well we did. Can we establish when the triple berry pie actually started? Right? Keep going back. Oh, the moment I pulled the recipe out? No, I had to have had the thought to do it before then. No, not until I mixed the flour and the butter. No, not until I put the berries in. No, not until it's done in the oven. But we could even pull this thing out of the oven and set it on the stove, and the fly comes along, right, and hovers over it. Is it triple berry pie for the fly? No. So did it not become triple berry pie? Do you see? So let's see where he goes. You ready? Listen. If starting and staying and stopping possesses as things to be defined characteristics which define them as produced entities, it would have to be endless. And if they don't, they cannot be produced things. So now he's not talking about triple berry pie anymore. He's talking about the quality of starting, being able to start something, the quality of staying, being a produced thing, the quality of stopping being a produced thing, right? So he's gone from the thing to the idea about the thing, which also have to have their own qualities of starting, staying, and stopping. And if they don't, then they can't produce anything. Yes, Roxana.
Thank you. I'm just thinking, you open your fridge and every single item in there, it says best before, and it has a date, right?
Right.
An expiration date. So here at home, Mario has this thing that he's always looking at the labels. And if it just passed one day, he goes, oh, this is gone. Trash it, trash it, trash it. And I go, no, don't trash it. Please don't. It's good. And he goes, there's no need. It says here, best before. I go, yes, but it's good. So it's, of course, it's empty because
Right.
we have to put an expiration date on certain items because we know that they are decaying. It's like this process that we're learning right now, but
Exactly.
it doesn't, I mean, karmically, it can be there for more months and it will still be good.
Right. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So that just came to my mind, like that triple berry pie. Where does it
Yeah.
stop? Where does it end? Does it end
Right.
where the date of expiration says for Mario, okay, it's today, he just trashes, and we
Right.
didn't even have the time to eat it or whatever,
Exactly.
right?
Right. And what time of day on that day that it's
Right.
gone bad? Yeah. Nice. Nice example. So if we need more coaxing, like maybe we could just jump to the end of chapter 7. If we go, oh yeah, I see your point. Like we just did that. We just like, oh yeah, I see. You can't really ever establish the exact moment that the thing starts or the thing goes bad, or, you know, it's like, wow, yeah, that's obvious. But apparently, right, Nagarjuna knows our mind's still going to struggle. He's going to go into the analysis of the starting itself. To be a functioning thing that can start anything has to itself have the three qualities of starting, staying, and stopping. And he's going to say, this is how you figure out whether it can happen in the way that we think. Do things start? Do they stop? Yes. The starting, sorry. The starting of the starting functions to start only the original starting. And then the original starting acts in turn to start the starting of the starting. I think this is our kachik. Digging our heels in and saying, yes, it is true that starting needs to itself be started. But there's an original start that sets the whole thing in motion. Because otherwise it wouldn't start at all. Nagarjuna, what's the matter with you?
But isn't that original starting started with us from time without beginning?
There's an original starting?
Well, it addresses an original starting, right? We cannot point that original starting, right?
Right. So our tradition says that when you go looking for a first moment, you will never find it.
Right.
So no, there is no original start in the way that we're thinking it had to be there in order to be the first start, because it couldn't, if it was always there as a first start, it means it's an unchanging thing and it can't bring about something else. And if it wasn't always there, in order to become the original start, it had to start doing that, which means something had to set it into motion, which means it wasn't the original start because something else started it as the original start.
Right.
So does that mean there's no first moment of triple berry pie?
No,
No,
it depends who's looking.
it depends on who's looking. Exactly.
Teacher, I think here, because the starting itself also has got three parts to the starting. The start
Right.
of the start, in the process of starting, and the ending of the start.
Correct.
So it's very difficult to pinpoint. I think this is what you meant.
Right. That's
Yeah.
exactly where he's going. So we've said, no, it's okay to have an original start that sets the whole thing in motion. And he goes, okay, so let's look at that. Suppose your starting of the starting acted to start that original starting. How could it be then that it, yet to start, acted to start this? That's what we were just saying. And if you say that the original acts to start and that starts the original, how can an original, which that had yet to start, act to start? Right? We're saying there's an original start that starts the rest of it. But that original start would have had to have started itself, and it can't do that. Just suppose that something that had not started yet had the power to act to start that. Your idea of those in the act would have to depend on asserting that these were acting to start. That one's a little more slippery. Your idea of those in the act, meaning the act of starting the start, would have to depend on asserting that these were acting to start, right? We'd be asserting that something that itself had not ever started is starting something new. We would have to admit that that's what we are asserting when we say something starts the original and then the original goes on to start everything else. Do you see how absurd that is? It's not the original if something happened before it to make it the original. It's not the original. Here's our Kachik again. But a butter lamp functions to illuminate itself and other objects in that same way. Starting two functions to start both itself and other objects. So let's think about that before we go on with Nagarjuna's response. This butter lamp is, right, it's a flame burning the butter. And there's the light that goes out from the butter lamp. And if the butter lamp was not lit, like, and you're in the dead of night in a deep, dark cave, could we see anything? No. But then the butter lamp is on. Now we can see the butter lamp and the things around the butter lamp. So the original start is like the butter lamp being on. It reveals itself. It allows itself to be seen. It makes it such that itself can be experienced. And so it makes it such that the thing that it starts can be experienced. Seems like a good argument, doesn't it? The start's just like a lit butter lamp. It reveals itself and it reveals everything around it. Does it hold up? But why not?
Well, in my world, I think I would have to think of this example in every single situation that I'm thinking self-existently.
No. Which is sort of an oxymoron, right? If we're saying, I know that things come from other things, triple berry pie comes from flower, berries, blah. I'm not thinking of the triple berry pie as self-existent. A self-existent triple berry pie would just like boop, be there.
Right.
Really, self-existent seems like ridiculous. But what we mean by self-existence is its identity, its qualities. It brings something to the party that influences my experience, right? Now, suddenly, self-existence isn't about not depending on any other thing, because everything depends on lots of different things. Self-existence means to exist not depending on my unique experience of it. And not like, is that when we say, oh, not self-existently, is that really what we mean? Right? Can you catch in your mind what you mean by not self-existently?
So I can. Like, for
Yeah.
example, that I'm not responsible for whatever is happening. It's like I just take for granted everything that I have, everything that is happening. And
Me too.
I think it's coming from there. It's not coming from me.
Right. 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 And that's what we mean by to be self-existent.
Right.
It's just the way it's always been. Like we don't even quite have words that we can pin it down so much. And then when we try to stop and think, oh, not self-existently, what do I really mean by that? It takes like 5 minutes to go through the explanation to ourselves. And yet when we catch a glimpse of it, we don't need all those words anymore. It's like, oh, but then it's gone. But every time we do that, we're influencing our ability for it to pop up again. Hopefully it's going to pop up at critical moments, right? The hardest time
Right.
for that to pop up is when, something unpleasant is happening and we want to blame the other for it. We don't want to take responsibility for the crap that's happening to us when it's happening. And yet that's a crucial moment to at least try to see, would everybody experience it the same way? Is this actually two things that are touching? Is it happening all at once? Find your favorite trigger that helps you get off the automatic pilot, even for an instant, because it'll be enough to not react in the same old way. We may react ignorantly in some new way, but at least, right, we got off the automatic pilot by triggering this, whatever words you use, ripenings, unique to me, whatever. Yeah.
Like, for example, you were talking about the triple berry, and I thought in my mind goes, oh, which was the first triple berry pie made, and how is it now? So which one was the one that triggered the rest of the other triple berry pies? And then my mind goes, no. Best think of what was the first kindness that someone made that triggered the other kindnesses in everyone's world. So don't think of the triple berry, think of other things.
Right, right. Like, what was the first kindness? There couldn't have been a first
Right.
kindness. Sumati and I were having that discussion recently. I can't remember why, but they know there had to be a first. There had to be a first. And then there can't be a first. And right, your intellect just goes. Hmm. All right. So again, our argument was there is so an original start of anything that starts in the same way that a butter lamp lights itself and everything else. The original starts itself and then everything else. It's absurd, right? So listen, Arya Nagarjuna says, okay, let's consider your example of the butter lamp. There is no darkness in areas where the lamp is standing, meaning the lamp that's lit. There's no darkness in areas where the lamp is standing. And so how can we say that the butter lamp works to illuminate those areas? How could you say that a lamp in the act of starting, conveying this clearing away of darkness, were such a thing? A lamp that's clearing away darkness. A lamp that's lit, there's no darkness there. Right? What does your mind say? Right, because the lamp is lit. But he's saying, right, there's no darkness there. It's not that the light has to touch darkness to push it away. Because if that's true, either any given lamp would touch all darkness, or the darkness would have to remain so that the lamp could continue to touch it. And we say, well, the lamp only touches darkness within a certain, right, area. And so it must push the darkness away only this far. And then it can't push it away any further. And he actually is going to address that too. Because he'll say, well, then there must be a moment where the light touches the darkness, right? If it pushes it this far, but not that far, then there must be a place. Look, I even have darkness, right? Here's the light. Pushing darkness away, but it can't push it any further. So there's darkness. Well, that means there must be a place where the darkness touches the light, right? And, you know, that'll be a different place. And he says, and if that's not the case, then any light anywhere would dispel all darkness everywhere. Because there'd be no limit to where the light touches darkness. And, you know, our Kachik mind is going, okay, any given lamp doesn't dispel all darkness, so there must be a border between the darkness it does dispel. And oh man, In the moment that the lamp is in the act of starting, it never makes contact with the darkness. And suppose the lamp standing here could ever clear away the darkness located in all the worlds that there are, for it would function to clear away that darkness while never making contact. So we just figured that out ourselves. You know, I have to admit, because I've read Nagarjuna, 50 times before. I didn't figure it out myself. Suppose a butter lamp could function to illuminate itself and other objects. There's no question that the darkness as well would have to obscure itself and other objects. That's a great argument. If our example of the butter lamp as a functioning thing starts illuminating itself by just itself lit, then darkness as a functioning thing would also function to darken itself and all other things. And if you darken darkness, what should you have? Light. Wait, that doesn't work. So how could this starting, before it had started, act to start its very own self? Nagarjuna is asking us, our critique. How could something that had started act to start that? Something that had already started, can it act to start itself? No, it's already started. And if something had already started, what else would there be to start? No matter how you look at it, as something already started or not yet started, or in the act of starting, it is not started. So is Nagarjuna saying nothing ever happens? I mean, that would be absurd. Our experience is things are happening all the time. Like our experience of being is happening. Can anything
Does that-
happen without starting to happen? No. So what's he saying? I know.
When you say darkness plus darkness gives you light, is it kind of like in physics? A negative and another negative will give you a positive?
Yeah, exactly. I know we want to
if I-
say darkness with darkness makes more darkness. But that's would be inconsistent with saying a butter lamp illuminates itself and other things. If we're holding that as true, then we have to say darkness obscures itself and other things. In which case, it gets obscured. Darkness gets obscured. Which means then it's appearing. It's light. There's something there. I didn't finish verse 14. I keep doing that. No matter how you look at it, as something already started or not yet started or in the act of starting, it is not started. This has already been covered completely with being already gone or yet to go or stepping now. So he takes us back to chapter 2. At what moment can you establish you've shifted from being a not goer to a goer? And at what moment can you establish you've finished going and got there? And when you go to pin down the actual moment, you can never find it. And yet, we go places, we do things. In the same way, although we can never pin down the actual moment of the start, we do experience things starting. So if we've established that it can't be in the thing starting, or in something else being the cause of the thing starting, and we experience something starting, What's the conclusion? The whole starting has to somehow depend on my experience of it happening, doesn't it? Because it would be absurd to say things don't start at all. Things do start. We got back to where we were last week.
We
Yay.
moved, Gemma, we moved. I moved.
We got one verse forward. But we planted seeds that are going to help us all understand such that it will help us respond in a more kind way in the face of an outer world that seems to be out there independent of us. That impossible world. And that's a great, great goodness. Like what we've just worked on is extraordinarily good seeds, and thank you. It was fun and challenging and enjoyable. And think of all this great goodness and be happy with our effort. Be happy that as a result, whoever that other was who motivates you, they will benefit. And think of this goodness like a beautiful glowing gemstone that you can hold in your hands. Recall your own precious holy being. See how happy they are with you. Feel your gratitude to them, your reliance upon them. Ask them to please stay close, to continue to guide you, help you, encourage you. And then offer them this gemstone of goodness. See them accept it and bless it. And they carry it with them right back into your heart. See them there, feel them there. Their love, their compassion, their wisdom. It feels so good. We want to keep it forever. And so we know to share it. By the power of the goodness that we've just done, may all beings complete the collection of merit and wisdom, and thus gain the two ultimate bodies that merit and wisdom make. So use those 3 long exhales to share this goodness with that one person. To share it with everyone you love. To share it with every existing being everywhere. See them all filled with happiness, filled with the wisdom of loving kindness. And may it be so. Yay. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Jerry.